Okay. Cool. First of all, can everybody see my screen? You should be able to see a PowerPoint presentation, project closure report.
Yep.
Great, great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Kurt Bell. I'm the project manager for the DHD project for the city of Ventura. This is our project closure meeting. This meeting is a very important event that's used to bring a project to complete closure, identify the scope of work for the project, the purpose of the project, the scope of work for the project, what was and if anything was not completed, how we plan to handle anything that still remains to be done, how to escalate to support after the fact, now that we're transitioning to a support model rather than a project model, and how to any lessons learned, best practices, et cetera, et cetera. So we have here the main team. I can see that Heidi, are you there, Heidi? I think I saw you pop out and pop back in. Heidi, can I get a sound check from you?
Yes, I am here trying to fix my audio.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I saw you pop in and pop out. So we have our core team from the DHD project, namely Heidi and Don and Alex, Nellie, and of course Joe Morelli, our fire marshal, and David and Daya, our fire chief, and then the various representatives from the steering committee. We also have Curtis. He is from Tyler. He is our main go-to person in just about every form, acting as our implementation person. He's one of the engineers that has written a lot of the code for the DHD application, and he's currently also acting as project manager. So that's a lot of hats to wear, Curtis. We're really glad you're here.
Well, thank you.
Great. All right, this project is scheduled for an hour and a half. I mean, this meeting is scheduled for an hour and a half. That was wishful thinking on my part, kind of hoping that we could have this in person. Typically for this type of meeting, I'll have food at the end of it, donuts, pizza, whatever, and we'll have a bit of a party. But unfortunately, we won't be able to do that for obvious reasons. So we'll go ahead and proceed. Oh, let me let Mitchell in. Let me hear him chime in and check his audio. Welcome, Mitchell. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, thanks so much. I was having computer problems.
Okay, very good, no problem. All right, so my preamble is just about complete, and just a note to those who just joined, I am recording this as well, so the recording will be shared after the fact. So let's go ahead and begin. Now we know why we're here. So as I mentioned, we probably won't need the whole hour and a half because unfortunately there will be no real pizza after the fact. So we'll see how long we can go. Feel free to jump in at any time with questions and comments. I did send you, there's two documents that are associated with this. There's the PowerPoint that you're about to see, and then there's an associated Word document that has all of the same content in the PowerPoint, but it goes into more detail. I sent that document to all of you via email about an hour ago. It's also linked in the meeting invite as well. You can use that document if you want to do a deeper dive on any of the bullet points in the slides. That document will also serve as your record of the meeting. The document will, after the fact, be signed by the sponsors, and then the project will formally be completed at that point. So let's get started. Feel free to jump in anytime with questions and comments. I'm going to be reading a lot, and it's not normally my style to read things out loud, but it's very important that things are very clear and to the point. So I'm going to be reading, and then I'll pause, and then we will open the floor for discussion, but hopefully we'll go pretty smoothly. Let's get started. This is the project closure report for the Digital Health Department DHD project. The things we're going to talk about today are an overall project summary, important dates and milestones, project deliverables. That's the most boring part of the meeting, where I'm going to list out all 26 of our project in scope and out of scope and a couple out of scope items, and we'll make sure see what we completed and what we did not. It's very important, but it's boring insofar as because it's kind of dull listening to me read. But we'll get through it. Then we'll talk about any outstanding items that are left over after we formally close the project. We'll talk about how we're transitioning to a support model and how to handle support, how to contact support. We'll talk about how we did with regard to our budget. We'll talk about any major obstacles we encountered and how they impacted the project and what we did about them. We'll have a lessons learned summary, and then talk about some things that we could have done better. We'll talk about project documentation and where to find that documentation after the fact. Very important for looking back if we have a future project like this. We want to see what we did in this project. We'll talk about what's happening with human resources, in terms of releasing human resources from the project. And then finally, the project closure communication plan. So that's everything I plan to cover. And I don't think that will take us all the way to 12:30, but let's see how we go. First, overall project summary. This paragraph simply describes what this project was intended to do. The project was to deploy a cloud-based solution to help the Ventura City Fire Prevention Team perform field inspections using tablets rather than clipboards with pen and paper, and to be able to access records, create inspection schedules, and generate reports. The project also sought to develop an export process to bring financial transaction information from the cloud-based application into the city network to use with the city's Aggresso software, and for exporting data to support third-party billing. This was our mission and our mandate. Basically, at a nuts and bolts level, to get away from using pen and paper for inspections, to using tablets for inspections, and to also be able to create and manage schedules, generate reports, and perform financial export, and particularly in support of third-party billing. Any questions about this? All right, that was our mission. What solution did we select? The software product that we selected was a solution from Tyler Technologies called the Digital Health Department, or DHD. This is a cloud-based service, meaning that it is not hosted on premise here at the city. It's hosted in the Tyler cloud. Tyler's a very big company, does have a lot of different software products, including another familiar product called Energov. And so it's a cloud-based service that is specialized for fire prevention department needs. That was the one we selected, and we engaged with Tyler Technologies we had a contract, created a team, a schedule, and we were off to the races. Here we go. Let's talk about our milestones, dates and milestones. It's really helpful to look at at this point in a project, to look at how we scheduled things, what we thought it would take levels of effort to do things, and what reality looked like. Sometimes projects come through right on schedule, and as a project manager, I'm always happy when that happens. Sometimes they miss the mark, and it's useful to capture that fact for the purpose of future projects so we can avoid any mistakes in terms of scheduling and understand what obstacles we may have encountered. So let's go ahead and take a look at our major milestones and how we did. First, with the project start, this is one that's pretty easy to hit. Although I've got to wonder who chose April Fool's Day as a project start day. I don't know, it was me. The approximate difference is, in terms of estimated date and actual date, we started on time. Good for us. Reports development complete. Per our original estimate, we thought we would be done by June 15th, 2020. Remember, these dates were all laid out before COVID showed up. The actual date was January 15th, 2021, a difference of 7 months. That's a pretty long spread. But if you remember what 2021 was like, that helps to inform about why that might have happened. And there were other reasons. Another major milestone was system configuration complete. That's, Curtis here from Tyler and Nellie and our team all working together to get it all configured just so. We thought we would be done on August 17th of 2020. In fact, we finished on March 3rd of 2021, another 7 months approximate delay. Another big milestone was the data conversion. That's moving data from that we had already prepared into the DHD system. We thought we would also be done on August 17th, 2020. We were done on December 4th, 2020, a difference of 4 months. Full system testing and validation. We had hoped to be complete just before Thanksgiving of 2020. In fact, we were done near the end of April of 2021, a difference of 5 months. Altogether then, our project completion date, we would hope to be done before Christmas of 2020 on December 23rd. In fact, we were finished on 9/22/2021. in terms of actual completion. And that's a difference of 9 months. So if you look at this, kind of put it in a summary format, the overall implementation to success time was 17 months. That's the key takeaway, right? We missed the mark by over a year and a half in that regard. And so in the future, if we have projects like that, we'll have to look at it, see what caused us to miss the mark on any of these, and then try to engineer that or design that into our future plan so that we can have more realistic dates. Are there any questions about this slide? No. Okay, moving along. Okay, remember I promised there's kind of a boring section? Here it is. This, however, is the most important section. Just like some contracts are, the boring parts of the contract are the most important part. This is actually language lifted from the contract. And what we're going to attempt to do here is look at each item from the contract, each item of scope, and there are 26 of them, 26 in-scope items for this project. We're going to look at each one of them. I'm going to read it, and if necessary, I'll provide a little summary. And then we'll simply ask ourselves, like a Roman emperor, thumbs up, did we complete it, or thumbs down, did we not? And if we did not, what are we planning to do about it? So let's do this. I'll read an item, and then I'll show you the status, and then I'll wait for a second if anybody wants to comment. Here we go. Number 1, DHD SaaS Basic. All that basically means is that the DHD, that the Tyler provided, spun up and installed and got ready the DHD service for us to begin to use. And yes, they did. So you can see over on the right, completed. There's a little green. Yes, they completed that. Now this is where I wait. Does anybody think otherwise? All right, good. Now, if we move on, that means we basically are in agreement that that item was completed. The goal is to get through as many of these as possible with a yes on good grounds. Number 2, configuration, implementation, training, and reports for Coupa. Coupa is one of the programs that we were developing for. And we have a yes for that. Now, this is the point where you can actually refer to that document I sent you, that Word document. It provides a little more details. There's actually columns in there that have description and then comments from Tyler about what these mean. So if you want to dig into that, you can look at that or you can ask. Sound good? Okay, moving forward. Data conversion services. Yes. Professional services, nightly financial data development. Oh no, we've got a no. So what this basically means is this particular item of scope is that, remember, the DHD system resides out in the cloud, and we're billing people for their inspections. We need to have a mechanism by which that billing information can be brought from the Tyler servers across the internet into the city's network to be provided to Treasury so that they can do their thing in terms of reconciling the payments. That's a complicated process that involves the Tyler system, DHD, developing the output, getting it across the internet, working with our IT, and then getting it to Treasury. That all is in place. In fact, it was delivered. There's just one piece of the puzzle that's not in place. That's why we're keeping it on a no. And that is that we want to have a more secure mechanism of transport so that that data coming across the internet is coming through in a more encrypted and more secure fashion. So it was delivered, but we were just not close enough to get it complete so that to our security level of satisfaction. So it says no, but that doesn't mean because we're closing the project, we're going to forget about it. This and other items that are no, and there's just one other, will go into something called the project backlog. The backlog is a list of tasks and activities that are going to be taken care of post-project closure by the DHD Governance Committee, the body that will manage DHD from this point forward. Are there any questions about this? No. Okay, moving along. Number 5, Tyler DHD SQL report server configuration. Yes. I'm going to pick up the cadence a little bit. If you have an objection, let me know. Next, number 6, web services that respond to address, parcel, and business account queries and notice of violation development. Yes. Next is the unified program. Yes. 8, ability to enter inspection information from field. Yes. 9, ability to create and utilize various inspection checklists and issue writable violations on the field tablet. Yes. So these are the first 9 of our 26 scope items. 8 of them are a yes, 1 of them is a no, and explain to you the reason and how we're handling it post-closure. Are there any questions about any of these? Moving on. Number 10, ability to support mobile devices during temporary loss of broadband connection. Yes. This is one we struggled with a little bit, but we finally got it to the point that it's a yes. Number 11, automatic updates of business and property information based on GIS information. Yes, and you'll see there's a little asterisk there, right? And that is just, I want to point out, you'll see the little note appeared at the bottom. Just want to point out that it's not, the data is coming not from GIS, but through GIS. It's just an important note about the difference, but I didn't want to change the language of the item because that's from the contract. But we've got a yes there. Number 12, ability to view and update Coupa data and disclosure information. Yes, again, Coupa being one of the programs. 13, ability to take and add pictures pertaining to a violation. Yes, because we're using tablets with cameras. 14, ability to refer inspection to other city departments. Yes. 15, ability to view historical information. Yes. 10 more. 16, or 11 more. Ability to view business license status based on GIS information. Yes, and the same asterisk as before to the info below. 17, ability to batch schedule recurring inspection frequencies. Yes. 18, ability to attach emails and documents to occupancy and parcel records. Yes. All right, made it all the way to 18. Are there any questions about any of these? All right, moving on to our last set. This is down to 26. 19, ability to create permits and automatic expiration of permits by definable dates. Yes. 20, ability to bill for reviews and inspection based on predetermined fees. This one's a no. And there's a little note there that says yes for occupancy, no for FHRP billing. However, fire will use GIS FHRP program for this inspection billing. So just a little caveat there about the different types of ways that we're using it. So it's a kind of a conditional no on that one. We'll continue to work on that. Number 21, ability to save historical data pertaining to an occupancy? Yes. 22, ability for automatic update of billing contact information based on GIS information? Yes. 23, ability to meet state requirements for compliance monitoring and enforcement. That's a biggie. Yes. I'm sure that's going to help the chief and the fire marshal sleep better at night. 24, ability to automatically generate monthly inspection and status list. Yes. Ability to document activities pertaining to productivity service provided. Yes. And the last one, ability to delete records when beyond record retention schedule requirements. Yes. All right, those are our 26 scope items. So when we first spun this project up, this is what we went to Tyler with and said, this is what we need you to deliver. They've delivered 24 of these. We have 2 items that are not being delivered, and I'll be talking in just a minute about how we will handle those post-closure. Do you have any questions about any of these items of scope? All right, moving along. Okay, these outstanding items I just mentioned. What are we going to do about them, right? So you're closing the project, Kurt. Does that mean you're all done and you're going to walk away from everything? No, we're not. We're going to be handling this post-project closure through the governance committee and the cooperation of the city's IT department and Tyler's support. Here we go. We have 2 milestones that we have yet to complete. Milestone 11 and 12, those are the 2 that you saw before that were not closed. And the owner of those are Tyler and the city. So we'll continue to work on those. We're continuing to meet Tuesdays and Thursdays until these are complete. And that includes me. The other activities that remain open are the establishment of the governance committee. Joe Morelli, our fire marshal, is working. He's already identified the team, and they will begin meeting and working off of the backlog to govern this system. And I just want to emphasize how important this is. It's an appropriate governance committee and governance process that makes sure that we don't wind up few years down the road with a system that is unsupported, unmanageable, and out of control, because the governance team will keep an eye on things and make sure that it grows, develops, and is maintained as needed. And another key element of that is our own EnerGov sysadmin, Nellie, and of course, Don Taylor from IT helping out on the GIS end. That's our team for governance. Oh, there's more members as well. Okay, also inspection scheduler enhancements. That's just a very important item that will be handled through business process and the governance committee. Purchase of additional DHD, 3 additional DHD licenses. That's being handled by the city IT department. Issues. There are a number of issues that we still have open. We have a log for those issues. We will be handling those through the aforementioned backlog, handled by Tyler and city IT. And lastly, communications, namely our project closure emails, and that's going to be handled by me. So I will, at the very last slide before we're done, I'll be telling you about the 2 emails I'll be sending out to properly close the project. Any questions about how we're planning to handle our outstanding items? All right, let's continue. This is where it kind of gets a little bit fun. We get to talk about real life stuff. First, let's talk about support. How do we handle support for DHD from this point forward? Support should be handled by submission of a help desk ticket that will get routed to the appropriate support personnel here at the city IT department. And usually it'll find its way to our own Nellie. Nellie, and Nellie alone, is the person who should be contacting Tyler to escalate issues. That will help to make sure that we have a good process for managing support escalation, and also good communication and control of issues as they've been escalated. So if you can please communicate, if people are having issues with DHD, if you can please direct them to submit a help desk ticket first of all, that would be the best way to start. And that's how we will support it. And moving along. Okay, budget. Let's talk about our budget, the money part. Now, this was a milestone-based project. What that means, of course, is that Tyler, you deliver the work and you get a paycheck, right? So we had 15 items of 15 milestones by which Tyler would get paid. And you can see those 15 on the screen right here. Don't worry, I'm not going to read all of them to you. They're basically the same things that you just saw. Some of them are piled up into combinations of items. Just in a summary format, you can see here, there's the item, its title, and the cost. That's how much we paid Tyler for delivery of said item. In short, the 2 items that we didn't deliver, these are the 2 that keep coming up. Those are 11 and 12 right there, not yet complete. So Tyler's still on the line to get about another $5,000 from us when they can deliver those. As for complete, they've completed 13 of the 15, and those you can see right there. Now, normally there's things that come up in the course of a project that aren't covered in the main project scope. These are the out of scope items, and we did have 2 items that were out of scope for this project. You can see them listed here. We had number 1 there, which is a change order to add some functionality that we needed. And number 2 was the purchase of additional DHD licenses, 2 in particular. Steering committee members may be asking yourselves, well, wasn't the number 5? Yes, it was 5, but we only had enough contingency really to handle 2, and that's all the need was at the time, so that's what we went with. Those 2 came from the contingency. The remaining 3 we're in process of buying now, and those will be coming from the IT budget. So these are complete, and regarding the contingency, the contingency for this project was $10,275. We used $7,881, which is 77% of the contingency. Remaining contingency is $2,394. So that's where we stand closing the project with regard to our contingency. Any questions about budget use, contingency, etc.? All right. Hey, we're doing pretty good on time. Not even 11:30 yet. Here we go. Okay, this is the part I like, talking about the obstacles, lessons learned, etc. This is actually kind of fun. What obstacles did we encounter and how did we handle them? The first obstacle, of course, that we all encountered in every area of our work was the global pandemic. In summary, in early 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic arrived on the scene, causing the city to close its doors to the public and most city employees to begin working from home. This situation remained in place from late March 2020 until the start of July 2021. The main impact this had on the project was the change in working environment strategy and tools. Namely, the team, both City and Tyler, had to orient more towards an online meeting environment, which initially slowed down operations as well as our ability to work collaboratively in a face-to-face way. However, once adjustments were made, the City team was able to be more productive with some portion of the project in a work-from-home environment. I'd like to add to that the fact that everybody, of course, was under greater stress and tension and load from our other elements of work being impacted as well. So it heightened everybody's and workload. So it was a challenging time. And we handled this, as you can see, by basically rallying ourselves around an online meetings format. One of the things we did, and I'll talk about this in just a minute, was we began meeting on a daily basis. So the team met every single day. The City team did for half an hour every morning. And then we met with Tyler every Tuesday and Thursday for half an hour, as well as an afternoon meeting for an hour. So greater online meeting presence, touching bases more often. That's how we attempted to overcome the impact of COVID. Does anybody want to add anything to that or any questions? Okay. Our next obstacle was the loss of the Tyler project manager. In June 2021, the Tyler project manager did leave the company, resulting in a project management vacuum at Tyler for this project. This fact slowed the project until a replacement project manager was assigned a few weeks later. And I would probably like to add that we never really got full engagement of a project manager from that point forward, which I think was a kind of a blessing in disguise, Curtis. I'm winking and complimenting you because you did a really good job stepping into that role, Curtis. Curtis is, of course, our implementation engineer from Tyler, who actually took that project management hat on. And currently wears both hats. So Curtis, we faced that challenge. It was a struggle for a while. It impacted our schedule, but I want to target Curtis right now for thanks for stepping up into that role as well as his mainline implementation role. You did a great job, Curtis. Any questions
Thank
about
you.
that?
Yeah.
All right, moving forward. Our next obstacle was the Tyler security breach. On September 30th, 2020, Tyler Technologies reported to their customers a security incident involving third-party access to the Tyler phone and IT systems. This incident required Tyler to shut down or restrict some systems while working to resolve the issue. The overall impact on our project was to delay some work for several weeks. So Tyler, as we're aware that many organizations were hit by security attacks in the last couple of years, Tyler suffered such an attack and they had to lock everything down. Now, if you've got the system on lockdown, it's hard for anybody to do any work. After lockdown was lifted, new communications protocols were put into place between the different Tyler groups within the organization. And that slowed things down as well. It was harder for Curtis, for example, to work with his peers on different aspects of the system because of those new processes, which enhanced security but slowed things down. I would estimate there was several weeks of impact, if not more, on the project. But we're in a more secure environment now. Any comments, questions about that one?
I have one comment, Kurt.
Yes.
I
ahead, Joe.
actually think that helped us overall. I mean, in some ways it didn't. It slowed down the project, and there were challenges that came with it. But overall, it allowed us to take a step back and then look at the project and revise the schedule and transition to a phased approach to implementation. So we actually got to have the benefits of the program for Coupa, which I think was the easiest part for DHD and that they understood the best, coming online in December of 2020. And then with the fire program in May, and then working on and finishing the billing portion. So I think that was a good model. And if we were to do it again, I would want to do it the same way. And we wouldn't have done it that way had we stuck with the original project schedule. So there were the way that we responded and with DHD, I think in the big picture, it helped us, even though it slowed down the project. And we got to use the program for 6 months with Coupa and understand it better while we were finishing implementation. And, we got the efficiencies from that portion of the program starting in December last year. So I think that was an overall success as far as how we worked through it.
Great. And I'd like to just draw your attention, lingering on that point for just a moment. Remember that slide up front where I showed you our schedule and how we missed, there were some red items there. We missed things by 3, 6, 5 months, whatever. That is reflected, that this incident impacted that timeline. But as Joe said, there were some benefits that came with that, significant benefits that came in our realigning our approach to the project. Another important thing, I'm going to make a note of that, Joe, your point right there, to make sure that's captured in our notes for the project for future reference, that we were able to recalibrate how we did things. Thank you for that. Just a second here. All right, moving forward. Anything else? Okay, doing good on time. Another obstacle we encountered. And it was a really interesting one. And I'm going to ask Joe to speak to this in just a second, but let me just read real quick. This is called Coupa Tier 3. The City of Ventura Fire Prevention Team successfully petitioned the county and California Environmental Protection Agency for the highest level of server access that has ever been granted to a hazardous materials participating agency. This two-way integration between DHD and the California Environmental Reporting System allows Ventura fire prevention staff to operate at an improved level of efficiency and serves as precedent for other California cities who may wish to implement the same improvements. Before I ask Joe to just explain what all that meant, I just want to add my own 2 cents. Joe and his team began work on this. This is more of a communications and political activity than anything else. Began work on this early on, and if he had not achieved this, the team had not achieved this with Joe's leadership, that would have been a significant blow to our project. Joe, do you want to explain what all this means?
Yes, first, just thank you to Alex Vallegast for his persistence on this. This would not have happened without a relationship that we built over time with the County Coupa and with the state of California environmental or Cal EPA. So it was they did not have to allow us to do this, but we broke through a barrier that no other agency has before using this program, and it's resulting in a improved program because of it, with real-time reporting on hazardous materials in our city. And a two-way integration between our software and the state. So it's a big deal for us as far as our efficiency, and it's something we can be proud of.
And may I add, an important precedent for other agencies throughout the state that might want to follow suit, right?
Absolutely. I think other agencies are already looking at DHD as PAs and knowing that this is possible now. And thank you to Curtis for your guidance and help with that as well.
Thank you. And yeah, it is an important note. I think Imperial County is going through the same thing right now. I think they have a certain agency that is the Coupa, but the Environmental Health Department is taking over some of the programs. So I think they'll officially be a PA, so they're going to have to utilize the same. Again, it wasn't like there's a technical thing happening on our side. It was definitely, I think, accurate when Joe's saying it's a political, or Kurt saying it's a political thing. But it does open the door to other PAs that want to use the same thing. And I would again thank the Ventura County. Sounds like you all have a good relationship with the county as well, which is great, because without their authorization, you would have been at the mercy of not being able to utilize the technology. So I appreciate everybody's work on that, as well as I believe it's Rick at the county for allowing that. So yeah, and I'm sure all the rest of the PAs from here on out, because you're right, it was the highest level of the people that work on that service project had to get involved to get past the political red tape. So I appreciate the efforts on both sides.
If this project had been a tennis match, this is the point in the tennis match. I was on the edge of my seat, Waiting to see the results. I'm really glad it happened the way it worked out the way it did. Congratulations, team. All right, any other questions? Should we move on? All right, those are our major obstacles. Again, those are the things that happened along the way that we didn't anticipate, that or maybe we did anticipate, but we were able to overcome. And let's go on to our lessons learned. Okay. First, test-based milestones. Cover your ears, Curtis. Rather than delivery-based milestones. So this is a milestones-based project, and some of the milestones were keyed that Tyler gets paid upon delivery of a certain thing. If we could go back and do the project again, I would probably rather change the wording to say that that test, certifying through testing, that it works, that's when you get paid rather than delivering it. So it's just a little more of a language change that makes it we get paid when it's done. Another one is early establishment of a governance committee. Governance is usually the thing that's forgotten or overlooked altogether in most projects. And if we had started the governance committee early, then we would be in a much better position to take over the project now. Fortunately, most of the governance members that Joe's putting together are already members of the team, so we're well on our way. Another lesson learned was to have meetings at a reasonable time, not every day at 7:30 a.m. The photo you see is my most contrite and apologetic bow for having, whose idea was it? Mine, to have everybody meet at 7:30 in the morning every single day. I'm so sorry about that, everybody. Another lesson learned was to have clearly defined meeting schedule. I don't think our meetings were as rock solid. We knew when they were on the calendar, but in terms of content, what was to be covered, what we were doing, that could have been more clearly defined. So that's a lesson for me. Another one was team member backups. Tough to do in a city, where you don't have a lot of other human resources, but having someone in place in case someone gets sick, or under COVID, someone gets and needs to be away for quite a while, would have been a good move. We did have that in place, but it wasn't formally there. And then, yes,
Oh, sorry, it's Heidi.
Heidi, yes.
I just wanted to say on the early meeting time, not really your fault, so no apology really needed. And I think it was, we arrived at that time because it was necessary for us that were implementing the software to get the meetings out of the way, because we also have to go out in the field and conduct our inspections at the same time that we're fully involved in this project. So that was important to getting those done in the morning so we could go out and wear our double hats.
That's right. That's right. Yep, that was the reason. Thank you for adding that, Heidi. I appreciate that. All right.
I will say on this point, Kurt, one of our struggles during the year was a lack of backup, a lack of running out of backfill support. It caused an incredible amount of extra pressure on the team. We pulled it off with overtime, but I think that's something that just future lessons for other projects is finance support for backfill and not cutting it off mid-project. Thank you.
Good point about the backfill. Right. Yeah. All right. Development environment needs. This is basically making sure that this really kind of came to our attention when Nellie, our sysadmin, joined us, and as the technical and Don, of course, brought it this as well. But having the environment set up in such a way that we're replicating in the test environment and the main production environment, so that things are the same. So just a little more alignment there, making sure that it's nobody's fault necessarily. It's just making sure that the two environments match, and what we're doing in a test is replicated in production. Also, we had issues with performance, variable performance happening in the various environments that made it hard to work sometimes. So maybe standards for performance and compatibility and similarity between environments. And that's, a few more. That's that for that slide. More thought to mobile. Namely, we knew we wanted to go to a mobile device, a tablet, because that was the whole aim, one of the whole primary aims of the project. But we should have done more due diligence up front, researching what type of device to use, how it would be used. Questions like what happens when we're like, for example, checking for brush situations in an area where connectivity is intermittent, hit and miss. How is that handled? Things like that are, and really just more upfront thought about that mobile piece would have helped. Use the city's SharePoint site. Curtis, as much as I love the Tyler SharePoint site, if we could do it all over again, I would try to have as much of the project run off of the city SharePoint site. That's because as a project manager, I have more control over that site. And that means that when we're all done with the project, I get to keep all the artifacts. So I hope that makes sense. I'm being rather selfish in that capacity. Because of course, when the project closes and we go away, we don't have access to the stuff that's on your SharePoint site. So
Yeah, no offense taken here. I certainly understand.
yeah.
And I didn't set that up. We'll blame Hamza. He's gone. So
Okay. And I do want to shout out, we will blame him, but I also do want to shout real loud because he's gone. But I want to thank Hamza for all his effort along the way. He did work hard to bring us a long ways.
yeah, just joking, because Hamza has been a big help for sure. I know the early part of the project, it was a lot of me. So having Hamza and Anna Maria helped out a lot. I know it's your lessons learned, not ours, but I would add on our side, the more people involved, the better off it made it from our perspective. So
Right. Yes, definitely. Another lessons learned was management involvement is key. And this is where I'm just going to single out our fire marshal, Joe Morelli, for being that person and setting a standard and a benchmark for me as a project manager for what it means to have managers that's involved. As a project manager, what the first thing I do when I'm given a new assignment is, and I tell this to the IT manager and whoever I report to, I look for the person who cares, because it's not usually the person that I'm given the name to go talk to. It's somebody in the organization that has a vested interest in the project and that cares about what gets done and will be there, the person I need to work with. It's interesting how that person usually turns out to be someone a step or two below the top. And they have oversight of the organization and access to the resources, schedules, etc. And that person turned out to be Joe. And Joe, of course, executed that role in an exemplary fashion. And I'll shut up now because he'll get embarrassed. But Joe, you really set the bar really high for project sponsors for me on a going forward basis in other projects. So I'll be looking for a Joe Morelli in every project I work on this point going forward. You taught me an important lesson. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
the right team member mix. What this doesn't mean we had anybody that was the wrong person. It just means that keeping everybody in the loop and involved in what's happening, and making sure that we're not missing somebody. For example, a case in point, part of this project was involvement with finance for the Aggresso export. I feel like we didn't involve finance enough. We probably could have kept them more in the loop as to what was happening in terms of that. And there were others as well. So to ask a reminder to myself to look at the broad picture. Who else needs to be involved? How much do they need to know? And what can I do to keep them involved and in the know? Getting to the bottom, turn obstacles into opportunities. This is a very important one. And I'm going to, because Joe's really good at pointing out some of the cases where we turned lemons into lemonade. Joe, would you like to give some examples maybe?
Well, I think the COVID actually, because of some of the inspections that we weren't doing in the field, we ended up pulling our best staff for the project as far as who we needed with what skill sets. So both Alex and Heidi, being able to pull them in with different expectations on the inspection side, not different requirements or volume or anything, but I think that gave us the opportunity between this project and Energov. Fire staff spent over 2,500 hours combined between the two projects over the last year and a half. I don't think that would have been possible. Honestly, had it not been for COVID, we would have kept going with the same volume of inspections. But a couple of the other areas were the change in to the phased approach that we had. That would be another one. And then the obstacles we had in working with the state and the county to get the needed SERS access as far as the delays with the project. It was well worth it given what we were able to get out as a result of it with that tier 3 access. So that's a couple examples at least.
All right, so I'm going to personally put into a mindset of when I encounter an obstacle going forward to asking myself, where are the opportunities in addressing this obstacle? So thanks, Joe, for helping to switch the way I see the world a little bit. And I think that's it. Yeah, we're almost done, actually. Things we could have done better. One, we could have had better organization of the project team site. That's not on your side, Curtis. That's on my side. The project, the SharePoint site that I created. I noticed that throughout the project, people were often asking me where various documents were and how to find things. And I realized that it's not very intuitive or clear. So in future projects, I'm going to look to simplify the project team site so that things are more of a one-stop shop. So you can go to one place and find everything you need. And I have ideas for how to do that. Another one was team updates of information on the project team site. We use Teams for a lot of our communication, but I could have done the same thing on the project team site through a bulletin board or banner functionality in SharePoint. So I'm going to be exploring for future projects that functionality and I'll probably be going to be leveraging more Teams more in the future. I'm really starting to realize that that's where Microsoft really wants us to go. It wants us to kind of move away from Microsoft SharePoint into Teams for team functionalities. Another is a better understanding of software licensing and purchase process. Joe and team, I am so sorry it taken 5 months to get you 2 licenses. I need to understand, and as an organization, I think we need to understand better about procurement, getting the buy-in for purchases, and to a way to expedite that process. So actually, Louis and I are going to be, my next project immediately after this one is to work with Louis to document the purchase process through IT at least, so that we'll be able to have a roadmap for that. So that's a biggie. And then a better understanding of the support lifecycle and how to transition to support so that we don't just either leave ourselves hanging or are uncertain about what to do. Thank you, Curtis, for helping us to understand that process with Tyler for DHD. Another one, improved vendor engagement for clear definitions of the implementation process, use of vendor-provided worksheets, and training expectations, delivery, and follow-up. Curtis, what that basically simply means is that we want to work more closely with you, if we have the chance to do it again, to understand better the documents that you provide to us, what you expect to get out of them, the schedule, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to try to assume less and communicate more with you. Next one is better communication and expectation of vendor to understand city business processes and workflows before implementation. That could have probably been handled by simply whipping out old Visio and documenting our business processes a little more clearly and sitting down with the Tyler team to make sure that they understand that we're all on the same page, so we're not guessing about how things are done. Any questions about any of these? All right. We are almost done, like I said. Project documentation. So as we wrap this project up, what are the important documents to remember and keep your mind on? And the reason I want you to remember these documents is that maybe 2-3 years down the road, you'll have a project that'll come up that'll be similar to this in some way. And you'll want to say, hey, what did we learn about from that DHD project? Maybe we can look at the documents and leverage that and not reinvent the wheel. An important document is the business case. That was a write-up that was done to identify the thing that was possibly keeping Joe and the fire chief up at night. DHD needed to solve. So it's just a business language document that describes the problem we set out to solve. That was summarized in the very second slide that I shared. Another is the project proposal. The proposal is important because it shows not just if there were more than one option, not just the option we chose, but any other options and the rationale for why we chose this one as opposed to something else. Really good if we're looking back in the future to want to know why did we choose DHD over something else. Regarding execution, our project plan and schedule. As a project manager, that's really helpful to look at past plans and schedules. The team roster, so we know everybody that was involved. The logs, all including all of our risks, issues, changes, and decisions. And then our closure meeting notes and our closure report. That's the document I sent earlier. All those documents will be living in our SharePoint site here at the city for long-term use. So any of you can refer back to it. Those of you that have access, when I close the project, I won't change any permissions except other than making them read-only access to these documents. So we won't be able to, they will be chiseled into stone, but you can refer to them at any time. Any questions about that? All right. Human resources. All project team human resources are now released from the project implementation. However, many of you will simply be taking off your project hats and putting on your governance hats. And things that we have yet to do are, of course, have support from the city for governance, which includes license purchase turnaround time and speeding that up, like I said before. Governance committee, creating the governance committee, making sure we have representation from IT, fire, finance, and have our monthly meetings. And then business license updates of PSI information as needed for web service call for accurate billing and contact information. Just making sure that that PSI piece, that link through Aggresso, is working and maintained in a healthy way. Other than that, the fire is now out and the team can go back to the station. But like I said, you've still got your governance work to go. Any questions about this? Hey, I want to thank Alex and Heidi and Dawn and Chris and Nellie and Joe and Curtis and Hamza in absenteeism and all of the steering committee for being a part of this team that brought us to a successful completion of the DHD project. Late, but we got there, and now we have an implementation, a product in place that I think not only will help the fire department deliver better on their mission, but hopefully will save lives, save money, and be a model for other agencies around the state to follow. The last piece I want to say is closure emails. I'm going to be sending 2 emails out tomorrow. One will be to the project sponsors, letting them know that the DHD project is complete. I'll be sending it via email tomorrow. I'm the one that'll do that. And then for the team, I'll be sending an email tomorrow saying that the project has been successfully completed and is closed. I'll summarizing our lessons learned, what we could have done better, the status of our project assets, all the various resources. You're free, you're free. Go back to your other work. Email tomorrow, me. I'll do that. And that is it. Do you have any questions, comments? I'd like to open the floor for any of that, and any of the team members, if you have anything you want to add. This is normally where we have pizza and talk. So in place of that, anybody has anything at all?
Kurt, I just wanted to say thanks to you. You know, we haven't, I remember when we first met and just getting to know you and watch how you handle these things and how you conduct meetings and how you really embody what I think a project manager should be. You take a vested interest in the people you're working with. It's not just a checkbox to you. And I think everyone would echo that it means a lot when the project manager is actually vested and you feel a personal connection where if you're having difficulty, they care. It's not about just getting paid and moving on to the next project. And that's made a huge, huge difference in how I think we've looked at it when I meet with Joe and when we've had our obstacles and stuff. It's been a very new and unusual breath of fresh air to have someone, again, with your organizational skills, your attention to detail, you know, starting a meeting at 2 minutes after or 3 minutes after. It's been very helpful. And I just want on behalf of the team, I want to say thank you. This has been one of the best, when I say projects, the way it's been managed and the way that you've handled it. So on behalf of the team, I want to make sure you know how much we appreciate what you've done and how you handled it. So thank you very much. And I love learning a lot about you as an individual human being as well. A lot of cool stories that we shared, and it's been a pleasure. And I genuinely hope that we get to work with you on something else because it's kind of how things should be done. So thank you for your part.
Thank you, Chief Ajaya. That means so much to me. I appreciate it.
And I'm not going to say it better, but I'll just say I've watched your YouTube videos on project management, and you're top notch. So thank you so much, Kurt, for leading us through this, and Don and the IT team, Nelly, incredible, and of course Alex and Heidi and steering committee for the support, and Curtis. So just wanted to say thank you again, and I think overall 17 months for what we accomplished, I would consider that a success given all the challenges we've had. So again, thank you, everyone.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? All right, well, at 1 minute before noon, if there's nothing else, I will go ahead and wrap things up. And I just want to add for the team that we still have a meeting on the books for tomorrow morning, and we'll still be meeting to wrap up a few other things as we transition to governance.
Yeah, and I got one more thing. I thought I saw Don's hand raised there too, but I just wanted to also thank everybody on the team. It was a pleasure to work with everybody. It's not often that we have a whole team that seems like they're easy to work with, pleasant and professional, as opposed to sometimes we get angry clients. And there were a couple of cases where you all could have been angry with us. The security breach, even though it didn't actually affect DHD at all, but it sure affected our ability to get things done through an abundance of overcaution on the Tyler side, which is fine. Like I said, there's probably better things that came of it, but there's a lot of places within the project, losing our project manager, the security breach, the PA political barrier. There's a lot of different places where it could have gotten pretty rocky. So I appreciate everybody still being professional and easy to work with, rather than blame-based or anything like that, which I've seen on projects before. So that was pleasant to work with a team that was like that. So there you go. And I also appreciate the effort here, and hope that fire departments got a soft spot in my heart for. So hopefully it does make a difference on things like actual people's lives, So I think everybody could deserve some congratulations on that.
It will, Curtis, and I'll tell you, we read the newspaper, we read the articles, what happens throughout the state and the nation, and oftentimes what leads to tragedies that don't need to occur is poor software programs with missing records. So because of this project, because of Don Taylor's help, for us identifying all of our mandates, we put these requirements in place, these functionality requirements based on not just what we need, but what we've seen go wrong in other jurisdictions throughout the state and nation. And absolutely, it is and it will be making a difference. So thank you again.
And I want to get to Don. I think he had his hand up, like you said, but I just want to linger for just a second, Curtis, and thank you for caring so much. I know that DHD is more than just a job for you or a product, right? I know you really care about this application, and our team have mentioned to one another multiple times about how much we appreciate the fact that you're looking not just to the scope, but to the betterment of your application and the service that it provides to the community at large. So that did not go unnoticed by our team, and we really are glad that we got a chance to work with you, and thank you so much. You're making the world a better place, Curtis. Thank you. And Don, if you're still there, there he is. Don, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did have my hand up. Every time we get involved in a big project like this, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride, but in the end, we always end up better off. And in this case, one of the ways we're better off is that in order to supply some of the data that ended up in that data migration spreadsheet, we had to actually add some things to the city GIS that did not exist before. And a big one was this set of shapes called the named complexes. So any place where there's a hotel or an apartment building or condominiums, anything that was going to get pushed into the DHD system, we had to actually come up with a way of capturing that. And so by capturing a shape and labeling it, giving it an ID was the good place to start. But then that even drilled down further, because the next step was, well, what buildings are associated with that project site? And then what addresses are associated with each building? So these were things that didn't really have in place before, as far as that hard connection between the buildings and the addresses. And so that was a nice enhancement to the city GIS that wasn't there before. And then we had to look at, well, sometimes we just sprinkle the addresses on the lot and we don't care if they land on a building. Now it does kind of matter. So there was a lot of scrubbing that went on to go through the whole city and shift those little address dots from wherever they happen to land so that they were associated with buildings. So just little by little like that, through the process of getting prepared to make that delivery for this project, we've ended up with a better product for everyone. So, I guess that's thank you to everybody who was involved, or for whoever started this thing and made it necessary to do that extra work. I'm glad it was done. So, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And,
Thank you for pointing that out.
Hey, Kurt, I've been here almost 11 years, and I mean, I know there's people that have been here a heck of a lot longer than me, but I got to tell you, you raised the bar. I've been part of people talking about this for the whole 11 years that I've been here, and we haven't gotten it done. So, I mean, I know there is a ton of people, but as our leader, man, you really made everybody you just made everybody better. So thank you for that. I'm so excited to hopefully get to work with you on another project. I mean, it's just really cool. So thank you, my friend. And also thank you for your books. I would have never known about them.
Oh,
if
wow.
I hadn't gotten to be part of this. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I do appreciate that. Great. And Dawn, thank you as well. And is there anything else from anyone else? Okay. Well, you know where to find me if you need me. So hopefully everybody has a great rest of the day. Team, I'll see you tomorrow for our usual meeting, and then we'll see you in governance as well. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you for a job well done.
Thanks again, Kurt, and thanks to everybody involved. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.